BeastNet podcast, sponsored in part by James Safety Services, OCR Buddy, and supported by the fitness community. Here we discuss all things fitness related, running, rucking, mental health and preparedness, and of course, obstacle course racing. Welcome to the BeastNet.
Hey everybody, it's Pretty Mike here at BeastNet, and on today's episode I got with me the OCR Twins. So we'll let them, I'm going to let them kind of explain who they are and all the fun stuff there.
Yeah, we're excited. First off, thank you for letting us be here. We're very excited to be here. I am very excited. I know Alex is a little nervous, but as an introduction, or to go off what you said, OCR Twins, most of y'all know us. Dirty D or Diana Codaspoti. So Dirty D, as you were saying, Mike, what your nickname was. Proud to be here, excited to be here. And then the twin, Alexandra, is here with me, and we'll go into a little bit more about it. But I'll kind of just start going into the weeds of things and start talking. I got started with OCR back in 2016. Oh, wow. 8 years ago. Wow. Yeah, I can't believe it was that. Yeah. I got into it because I had my second back surgery in 2015. And I was trying to get a lot of mobility back, a lot of movement back. It was pretty serious, harder recovery this time around. And I was in graduate school, and I was in an international marketing class, and it mentioned Tough Mudder because, you know, it started out in the UK. And I was like, well, Mom never let me play in the mud when I was younger. And this kind of sounds like fun. And at the time, they had the 6-mile races. So I brought it to my trainer, and I was like, hey, what do you say? Like, why not, right? And so he was like, you get your doctor's approval, I'll train you. So that's how it all started. And met some of the best people of my life to this day in OCR. And I think everybody can in this group can say that, right? And so whether you're an adaptive or para athlete like myself, or a competitive athlete, or you just do it for fun, or you have people like Ryan Cray, who has, you know, been a guide, as we say, a guide, quote unquote, several times for us. It's some of the best community ever. And so the way I kind of made the twin get involved is there's kind of two ways. So I was kind of out there in the beginning, I guess you would say. And I told the twin, I was like, when I did my first Worlds in 2018, I was like, okay, she needs to see how amazing these people are, right? Mm-hmm. And so kind of sunk her in that way for one way, because, you know, that's when you see people at their worst and best. So she kind of got sunk in that way, or kind of got hooked that way.
We did, but we also made we made kind of a bet through this. Yeah. She got into it, and I was training for a half marathon. By the way, I'm Alexandra. I'm the other twin, baby A. For those that don't know, both Diana and I have dwarfism, and we are adaptive para athletes. And so I just wanted to add in there. But the way I got into OCR was Diana. We made kind of a bet. I was at that point training for a half marathon. I lived in Oklahoma City, was training for the Oklahoma City Marathon. And I loved running at that time. Diana was so into OCR at that point. And so she goes, come do one with me. And I said, all right, let's make a bet. You come run a half marathon with me, and I'll do an OCR. I'll do an event with you. And that's how I got into OCRs, is through Diana. But what was why we made this bet was because most of the time when we go running, folks will be like, hey, you can come join our running group. And I'm like, I appreciate the offer. However, you're going to be doing a couple laps around me, and I'm still running on that first lap. But thanks. And so what was fun was that I would have somebody to run with at the half marathon. And so that was the bet we made. And so we did the Oklahoma City half marathon. It was fun. And then I got introduced to OCR, and as what Diana says today, it's an amazing community. The people are fantastic.
Yes.
I've enjoyed every second of it. It's challenged us physically, mentally, in all aspects. So it's also challenged us to be creative. That's the best part of it. Because we're adaptive athletes, when we come up to an obstacle, we're thinking, okay, how are we going to do this? What does this look like? Most of our life, what we've done doesn't always look like what everybody else does, right?
No.
I like to say it's our creative mind thinking of, okay, how are we going to do this? And let's do it. Let's show other para-adaptive athletes they can do this. Let's show our community, those with dwarfism, that they can do it too. And so that's how we both got into OCR. And it's just been a blast ever since. I would say I've been doing this how long now, Dee? Not quite as long as you. Probably a couple years now, 4 or 5 years.
20, yeah, I think 2019. Yeah.
So now let's see. Were you at World's Toughest last year?
Yes, Alex was competing and I was hitting.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have kind of met you.
Yes.
Because I was with Marla's team.
Yes.
With Joey.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was with Marla's team with Joey. So it's like once you guys were talking, I'm like, wait a minute. I met you at World's Toughest. So
yes.
You were
was
kicking.
That your first, was that okay? Was that your first time doing Worlds?
Yes.
Was that okay? And you were doing it as a guide?
Yes.
That's amazing.
That's cool. How was that for you?
It was amazing. It was amazing. It's a different perspective because I mean, a lot of people don't realize a lot of times when you're the guide, it's not about doing the obstacles. It's about making sure that the athlete gets through. So, everyone's like, oh, how'd you like this obstacle? I'm like, I never touched that obstacle because I was either over here on a rope, I was over here doing this because I was there for the athlete. There was nothing for me. It was just making sure that Marla got through. So I mean, it's a whole different perspective. And that's one thing that I've loved with running with the team as a guide is that perspective of helping.
Yeah.
Helping someone who normally would have, not be able to even do this possibly, be able to get through and experience something that, the rest of us have been able to. So it's different. Like I said, I started in 2015.
Okay.
And during 2020, I was up to like 310 pounds. I dropped down to like 180 during COVID from just running because I had time. Because nothing else was happening.
Right.
But once I came out of COVID, I lost my love for the sport.
Yeah.
Because it was like all of a sudden what you're talking about, like the community wasn't there.
Yeah.
Those first races coming out of 2020 and 2021, they're just, you could be, 30 minutes before, and once you were done, get out. There was no festival. There was nothing. It's like, you realize really quick, I wasn't here for the race. I was here for the people. And they took that away. And it just kind of like squashed my love of the sport, really. And then Boggs, who does most of the More Heart Than Scars on the West Coast now. That's where I'm originally from. I live in Texas now, but I was originally in Seattle with him. I did one with him where I helped a para-athlete. And then I moved out to Texas, and then I started doing more with Joey and them. And once I started doing it with them and helping people, I'm like, there's the love of the sport again.
Yeah. Yay.
And it's all about helping.
Yes. So a couple of things. Where in Texas are you? Because I'm in Houston. So
I'm in Conroe.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to have to do a little meetup.
We will.
So, okay, perfect.
Yeah. I'm in,
go ahead.
I'm basically right. My address is Conroe, but I'm basically in Cut and Shoot.
Okay. Very cool. So, awesome. Yeah. A small world, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
Like, not literally. But very cool. So, okay. So I want to kind of turn this back around on you for a second. Okay. So you mentioned, and this has been, a lot of things that we've been developing as a team and as athletes are talking specifically para and things like that. So you mentioned last year when you were helping be a guide, right? And so there's all different sorts. Like when Alex and I typically compete, our guides do the obstacles, right?
Yeah.
So they'll do them a lot of times with us. Because a lot of times that's we need, let's say I'm trying to do like Everest, right? Right. So a lot of times they'll get up at first, and then we'll get up at. So a lot of times they end up doing the obstacles with us. So as a guy, to throw this back at you, kind of thing, if for a minute, how do you like? What's your thoughts on that? Because that is where we are switching things up here at USAOCR a little bit. We're going to switch it around, and we are going to be asking guides to do the the obstacles, because we do, that is a reason why you guys started, right?
Well, yeah.
And so, you, for the love of the sport, you want to help, right? But you also originally started that because of the love of the sport. So we really wanted to bring that opportunity back with USAOCR, is giving our guides the same opportunity to participate, because that's how you fell in love with it, right? And so whether it's you're helping the athlete first or after, you still get that opportunity to participate yourself, because we don't want to take that away. And that's not the appropriate word I'm using probably, but to give you the opportunity, one, do what you love doing, because it takes special people to be a guide. I say that too, because I have a guide when I run my marathons. It takes me about 7 hours to run a marathon. It takes a saint to be out there that long, right? And as you experience Tough Mudder for 24 hours, right? So y'all are special people, and I mean that wholeheartedly, because you do this for the love of the sport. You do this for the love of helping people, and so it takes a special person. So I love the idea of giving that opportunity back. So how do you? I want to find out how you feel about that.
And I'm going to add, keeping in mind, this is a national, and we'll talk more about this while we're here, right, too. We're here representing USAOCR. We have an exciting event.
Yes, we will be talking about that too.
But as Diana mentioned, having the guides participate as athletes complete an obstacle, but keeping in mind, this is a national competitive race we're talking about. And so we're looking at the elites, we're looking at the para athletes, we're looking at age groups, we're looking at all these groups. But it's very exciting. But this is a competition at the national level, and so we're elevating it to the next level, taking it there. And so that is part of what we're on the category 6. Again, we'll talk about it some more, but about having the guides, we want them to participate, be involved in this, because it's exciting. We think it's exciting.
It is. For me, I could go either way. I love going on the obstacles. I love doing the obstacles, but at the same time, like, and I think what we run into a couple times, like we did the ultra in North Carolina with Marla. That one comes down to a time crunch, where it's kind of like you're running out of time, so we're going to get her over it, and then we're just going to move on, because we're running. We got to make sure we can make time. And that's kind of, I think a lot of that comes into it. So it's the challenge of getting them over, because a lot of times we're tying ropes, we're, using pulleys, we're pulling them up, we're doing all this stuff. So a lot of us, are climbing the obstacle in a way we're not supposed to, so we can get a pulley up there, or we can do this, or we can do whatever. So, I mean, there is still some of the obstacle, but for me, like I said, it becomes more about the team than anything.
Yes.
It's getting the athlete through safely.
Yes.
And if that means that, I've got to step back and not do the obstacle so that I can do the rope or do whatever. Like, I was with the team here in the Houston race, and we did with Ansley's Angels, and took three athletes through that. I think they had cerebral palsy.
Yeah. Yep.
In wheelchairs, and we took them through on that. And it was a lot of the, getting the pulleys up there, doing stuff like that, and pulling the ropes. So at that point, I mean, I think it depends on the athlete too. When you got an athlete that's that, needs that much assistance, you're gonna, it's gonna take a little bit longer. So it's like, okay, you got to sacrifice your, doing the obstacles. But for me, I get more out of helping them than I would out of doing the obstacle anyway. So, and that's what I lost. Like I said, in 2021, there was no team to race with. There was no one to help. So even when I wasn't helping, like, adaptive athletes or anything like that, we were still helping our teammates.
Yeah.
Having our teammates use us as a ladder, lean up against the wall and climb up and over us, so they can go over one of the walls.
That's right.
Doing whatever, because I was always helping the teammates. In Montana in 2016, we were the last ones to finish because a couple of our teammates got hurt, and we're like, well, we're going to finish anyway.
That's right.
Just kept going, and we spent over 12 hours on that course.
Wow. Yeah.
So I mean, there's different types. I think it depends on the athlete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
You're exactly right about that because, as Alex mentioned, she said that, the PO6, right? And so you just mentioned different types of disabilities, right? And so this is where I'll get into my little disability spiel. There's over 1.3 billion of us with disabilities, right? And we're talking mainly of visible disabilities, right? We're talking about things that are apparent to the eyes, which are only 25% of disabilities. The rest of disabilities are 75, meaning non-apparent, that you can't see them. So whether it's OCD, ADHD, autism, things like that, right? And so it's like we've got 1.3 billion of us with a disability. How can we get all of us involved, right? And so no matter what we do, it will always be hard to be, completely inclusive.
Yeah.
But let's do whatever we can, right? And so you just mentioned the different ways of helping different disabilities. Alex and I, we don't use police and things like that because a lot of it we can do. But we sometimes will kind of need somebody right below us because let's say if we do drop, that's a lot further drop for somebody who's 4'5", and I really don't want to break a leg or an ankle or a knee. Thanks, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the thing too, as it's learning too as a guide, and we need to give a race a try sometime soon. I'd love to go out with you one time.
Yeah.
Because it's neat just learning the different types of individuals with their different needs, their different disability, right? What they can, and I don't like saying cannot do, but what looks different, right? As Alex mentioned. And so keeping that in mind too, we have the different categories, right? To get more into detail. And it's never going to be, I want to say we'll get 110% inclusive, but we'll get as close as we can.
And it's evolving, right?
Right.
It's going to constantly evolve.
Yeah.
This is just the beginning. This is just the start. And so as we continue, more categories will be added, detailed out there. But this was important for us to start. We needed to start. There was a gap missing within the categories of the para athletes, the para categories. And so P6 is the one we added, as we mentioned, for those athletes to have guides so they can compete. So we can open that I call it gap, so we can get more participants to compete in this, because there are so many para athletes that do have a love for OCR that we have that want to compete. And so that's how P6 started. And I'll let Diana maybe we should probably say why we're here. We are.
Well, that was actually one thing I was going to ask, because I mean, you've mentioned the para athlete and the P6, and I mean, I think for a lot of people, don't understand exactly what para means.
Yeah.
I mean, they hear para athlete and they're like, okay, what exactly is a para athlete?
Yeah. Para athlete is an athlete with a disability. Sometimes you call adaptive. Para. It depends on the sport. But para is adaptive, meaning a person with a disability. Again, doesn't have to necessarily be a seen disability, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time, I'm just saying most of the time, it tends to be that, but it doesn't have to be, right? And so it's typically anybody who has a disability that's physical or apparent to the eyes, whether you're blind, whether you're deaf, short statured, cerebral palsy, amputee, any of those above, right? And so, like Alex mentioned, we really wanted to be inclusive. So originally, when we started in USAOCR, and to just kind of backtrack a little bit, USAOCR is the governing body for OCR in the US. And we are hoping, to put a team together for the future Olympics. But right now, we're focusing on how we can get a team put together in the future for the U.S. And Alex and I, Alex now, I crossed over, or kind of gave her the duties, started the para committee, really looking at the kind of the different types of disabilities. And yes, there are so many, like I said, there's 1.3 billion of us with a disability. And so really looking at disabilities that right now we see that's out there in the community, and how can we eventually expand upon these, right? And so initially we had 5 categories. The first, wheelchair that you can self-propel yourself. So you're a little bit more independent, right? A P2, which is kind of broken out into 2 categories, but it's limb limitations. I hate saying limitation, but it is a limitation, whether it's with your legs or your arms, not necessarily amputation, but more limited abilities like cerebral palsy. Yep. That goes into this category. Alex and I would actually go into this category, yes, into P2. P3 and P4 are amputations or amputees more. If you look at it, and there's, I believe P3 is leg, and I believe P4 is arm amputees. And then P5 is blind or low vision. And then we added P6 this last year. P6 is specific to the U.S. region only.
Yes.
Yeah. P1 to P5 is seen and agreed upon in World Obstacle as a whole, as the entire federation. But as Alex took over the committee this past year, we decided to add P6 because we noticed a decrease, kind of like you mentioned, right? A decrease in participation. And so we saw that over the years, specifically with para athletes or adaptive athletes. And so we wanted to figure out how could we be more inclusive, and working with people like Joey, you said, Julie, and some other folks, we really wanted to add that P6, which is individuals who need guides, and it's broken out into two groups, specifically. Individuals that are from P2 to P4 that need up to 2 guides. And then the other group is up to 4 to 6 guides. And that specifically depends on the terrain. If you're in a wheelchair and you can self-propel or unable to propel, either way, but you need guides, because some of that terrain, as I'm sure you have experienced, Mike, is pretty crazy, even when they have the hills, right? So if you're pulling a wheelchair with a human body in it, right, and you've got, in Vegas when we've done it, those rolling sand hills and stuff, that ain't easy, right?
No.
And so you need those people to be able to switch off, right? So we, as a committee and as USAOCR, really decided, and Alex really led this initiative this last year, is to really define this group, because we want to add more athletes, because we want athletes, as you've experienced as a guide, to be able to do things and meet people that are just some of the best people around the world, and then have a chance to compete, right? And get better. Alex,
compete and kick ass, right? That's what we're here for, right? It's the national level. We want them to compete and show off, like show your stuff. And I think the other thing too, this is just the start, as we talk about, start to continue to grow, evolve, but we really, if we even look at other federations within OCR, the para athletes are low numbers, and it goes back to really trying to get that participation involved with this competitive event, and what does that look like? And that was part of the reason too, looking at P6, is how can we get more folks wanting to compete and be involved and grow as an athlete, develop as an athlete, because that is also very, very important to USAOCR, is to continue developing our athletes, giving them a fair and safe environment to compete in. And so that's what P6 is all about. And we're sitting here talking about P6 and all these categories, but for what, right? Like why are we talking about para athletes and and these categories.
We want them to have fun.
We do. We want them to have fun and to talk about the exciting event that we got coming up, the big event that we're here to talk about.
So what is the big event then?
Yeah, the big event. So we are excited to announce that we are inaugural USAOCR National Championship set for October 12th and 13th in Rocky Face Ridge in Georgia. And so we have partnered with Phoenix Race in this, who have been amazing to work with, by the way. Absolutely
Julie is amazing.
Yeah, amazing team to work with. And I know she is also too very passionate about para-athletes. But we're working with her to bring of this first of its kind event that's less than almost 6 weeks away, 7 weeks away. That will include a bunch of different obstacle courses, obstacles from various brands, and so we're excited. But and it's for elites, it's for age groups, and for adaptive athletes. 3K and 15K, and it starts Saturday. So we want people to sign up and come have fun, come compete.
And Alex, I like
fun.
that, right? And Alex, this is totally tidbit off own. So we have the Paralympics starting right on Wednesday. So all of this is timed really well, I feel like. But a cool thing that the Paralympics is doing is they're not participating. These athletes are not participating. They're competing.
That's right. They are.
So competing. I love that terminology, or that that marketing focus that Paralympics have been putting together, because that's exactly it, right? We're asking these athletes with different disabilities in different categories to compete at a level, whether they're competing against themselves or they're competing against other folks, right?
So it's really how.
So it's really looking about that, whether it's you're competing about yourself in a PR that you did so many years ago, or you're competing against all those other individuals signed up, or you're even competing against that outside world that said, hey, you will never be able to do this. And you're like, bam, beep, I'm doing it, right? And so it's really, I've been really liking how the Paralympics have been taking that and say these athletes aren't just participating, but they're competing. And I think it's a great way to look at it. And yes, it may not be what is considered quote unquote norm, right? But we're asking the athletes to compete in a 3K competitive wave, and then, as Alex mentioned, 15K. And so I think it's going to be, I'm excited. I think it's going to be brilliant. I think, Mike, the question is, are you going to be coming out and guiding?
I don't know. I have to talk to Joey about that. It's been one of those things because I'm supposed to be in Dallas the next weekend, but and I'm trying to figure out a way to get to Georgia. So
yeah,
good answer.
I'm working on getting a way to get to Georgia. So because I want to be a part of it. I think it would be awesome to participate in that and help. And now you mentioned that the guides have to do the obstacles then. So for the P6 who gets guides, even the guides, so it's not going to be like it was, like I was mentioning, where you kind of help them, but you may not have to do it. So the guides will be doing it as well.
Correct. That is correct. And a 3K. So we have a 3K that's a competitive event on the para-athlete side, but we're also doing a 15K that's non-competitive. We wanted to get folks out there to give it a go, to see what the course was like, to see, to try it out, get to experience it, right? Especially for some folks that have not done a competitive side, even though this is a non-competitive race, it gives them that experience, gives them that trial to go see what it's like. To learn from it, to say, all right, I'm going to do the 3K next time. I'm ready for next year when they come back out and to rock and roll it. And so that's why we also have the 15K from the non-competitive side, but for the para athletes to participate in. Excuse me, Dee, you're right. And compete in, even from that aspect, I should say compete in. So yeah. So, but it's, I'll have to tell you what, this community is fantastic. Really enjoyed USAOCR and have joined the OCR community. So many fantastic people that you meet along the way. The stories of how people got into OCR, why they got into OCR, is just, it warms my heart. And Diane and I, again, being para-athletes, but also having a visual disability, are also, we're always challenging ourselves, but we're also challenging ourselves to let the world and our community know, hey, again, being creative, we've got this. It's going to look different, but that's beauty of where we live today, and the world we live in is unique, and differences is what makes us beautiful. And that's what it's all about, is really showing off what these athletes can do at a competitive level, because it's important. People need to see it. They need to say it. They need to feel it. And that's the best part. Walking across that finish line, whether you beat your last PR, or whether this is your first time, or whether you're like, I got it. That's what it's all about. And so we just love it.
It is. And it's one of those things that it's, because I was just talking to someone the other day. You used the word normal. And I'm like, but what's normal?
Yeah.
Right.
You know, what's normal for me isn't normal for you. You know, what's normal for anybody isn't normal. So it's always been one of those words, ever since I was younger, and I don't know why. It's just been one of those words that's always bothered me, because I'm like, what's normal?
Right. And even what may be normal for Alex is not necessarily normal for me, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so you're exactly right for that. We there's that quote too. We say, if you've met one of us with a disability, you've only met one of us with a disability, right? But I think that can really pertain to anybody though too, right? But for some reason we have this idea that all disabled people need the same type of help, need the same type of assistance, don't leave quote unquote normal lives, etc. And I think, that's kind of the great thing that's been happening the last couple of years, is that's not facts at all. That's not true at all. See the athletes that are out there, whether it's in OCR, whether it's in the Paralympics, whatever it may be. And I think that really challenges your perspective of kind of like what you said of normal too. That normal and crazy are the two words that I feel like we've had, are words that we've come to say part of our everyday language, but what do they really mean? And try to stay away from those typical maybe terms, or those everyday terms, right?
Which is funny, because that's the other one I don't like, is normal and crazy, because like it's my normal might be your crazy.
That's right.
And your crazy might be my normal. I mean, it's like, what do they really mean? So it's just kind of, we all do everything differently.
Yeah, we do.
And like you said, you and Alex have a lot of similarities, but your normal isn't her normal.
That's right.
Exactly.
And that's the one thing, like doing with the athletes, I've done it with a couple different athletes now with More Heart Than Scars, and each one was different and had a different, a different reason why they were adaptive. One of them, the first one I did with Boggs, in Seattle, she could walk, not great. She had to have, walker or canes and everything else, but she could walk, and she was able to do almost every obstacle with a little bit of help. Some where she had to climb, one of us would climb behind her so that she had support behind her, whatever we needed to do. So that was different than Marla, wheelchair. She could climb a little bit, but she still, needed some help. So kind of the same thing. And a lot of them, you climb behind her or, whatever. And then the gentleman with the cerebral palsy, full on, pulleys to go up the rope climb, everything else. So, I mean, each athlete's different. And I think that's the one thing too, is like, as a guide, you have to get together with your team, whoever's going with you, and say, okay, how are we going to handle this? What gear do we need to bring with us? And that's one thing with More Heart Than Scars, where there's usually 6 to 7 of us on a team.
Yeah.
Because one of us is carrying gear. The very first race I did with them, I just carried the gear bag.
Yeah.
So that we had gear to hand out. And I mean, I would help pull occasionally or do whatever with it, carry the chair, do whatever I needed to do. But most of my job was carry the gear bag. So everyone's got their task.
Yeah, and I'm sure you will learn this too, as adaptive athletes, as you do more and more, you figure out the ways and like best way to handle what you may need assistance with, and if you may not need assistance at all. And that's the other thing, we're talking about a lot of guides too, but I also want to mention there's a lot of adaptive and para athletes that may not necessarily need a guide depending on their disability, right? And so that's the other thing, is that again, all disabilities are very different, right? And the needs are very different. And so that's the other thing is, not all adaptive athletes need guides. And some adaptive athletes may need nobody. They may need just hey, I need a boost up on this, and then that's it, right? I think that's the other thing we need to look at, is that, it ranges for different types of disabilities and different needs. Again, why we have the large range of categories we hope to expand on as we learn and grow. And we that's the other thing, this is the first race that USAOCR is putting on. So this is going to be a big learning curve, right?
Absolutely.
And so, if you don't put on a race, you're never going to learn, right? So
exactly.
there will be something there will be some things that we'll get right, but there will be some things we'll get wrong. But we know that, and that's why we're doing it, is to test it out. And and maybe we need to look at, and who knows, maybe next year we'll have 10 categories, versus the 6, who knows. But it's exciting because this is an avenue for athletes to compete, and para athletes to compete at a level that will be challenging, a terrain that will be challenging, new people, new folks, obstacles that are mixed up from the different race series. So you're not going to get your typical everyday Spartan. We're going to throw some other stuff in there, right? But, in the end, I think it's going to be a challenge to all athletes, both mentally, physically, emotionally, but it's also going to be one good time, right?
That's right.
And so I think I'm excited for this. And I know the team's excited for this. I know Alex has been very excited. I'm the jibber jabber of the two of us. Can you tell? Can you tell about the personalities of us? So, but Alex has been really working hard behind the scenes on this to make sure it comes together. So it's gonna be great. So if you can come out, Mike.
I'm gonna have to find a way. See, what's funny is you guys seem like, I don't know if you've ever met Boggs, who's like the other counterpoint of BeastNet. He's the one that does all the behind the scenes stuff. It seems like that's kind of the dynamic here. Alexandra's Boggs and you're me. Where Dawn does all the background and makes everything happen, and I just talk a lot.
There you go. Yeah.
Diana's probably said that's probably fairly accurate. But no, she's been a big help, helping me through the process. And we've had a great para committee too on USAOCR that's making this event happen on the para side, but also from USAOCR. Great folks making this happen, put it all together.
I've talked to a few people from the USAOCR, but this is the first time I've been able to really talk about the para part of it. So
good,
awesome. So
because it's the best side of it. Duh.
Of course,
it's what we like to say too. That's right. Absolutely, is the fun size. Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah,
so
definitely the fun side. It just sounds like fun to me, because it's one of those things. It's amazing to see some of these people who've never thought they'd be able to do this. And like you mentioned earlier, crossing that finish line and doing all that. And I think I said on the last episode, I did, where I was talking about, we did the one in Houston, and one of the gentlemen that has cerebral palsy, who you could tell would never thought he would ever be able to do this. And he got over one of the obstacles, and he just suddenly yells out, like as loud as he could, "I'm a badass." And we're like, yes, you are.
That's right. Absolutely. Badass.
And
totally.
That was what made me like, I'm just like, this is why I'm here. This is what this is about. It's making sure everyone gets an opportunity.
Yeah.
What I love about this community and doing other races, the amount of as we're racing, Diana and I are racing together separately, because we take turns pitting for each other too. Is the amount of individual athletes just stopping during the race to even help you get over that wall or whatever that obstacle, they'll stop in the middle of their race to come help and give you that arm or that leg or that shoulder to get a boost up. And that was one of the things Diana told me about when I first joined. And I get to witness it almost every single race that I do that Diana's done. And that also I just love that because it just, again, continues to show why Diana and I have a passion for working doing USAOCR and doing the events. It's just because it's a community. You've got people they want you to be involved they want you to be there. They want you to enjoy the sport as much as they do. And that's what it's all about for us. As we continue to push the limits, and continue to really help our community, really understand that, hey, again, come out here, give it a go, try it. Call us up. We'll be there to help you, right? Like goes back to those guides, whatever OCR event it is. If you want to do it, call us, man. We're there. We're there to get you a team to get you through that because that's important to us. So you can have the amazing experience that we did crossing that finish line. And the other parts I love is it's amazing how many times that Diana and I will do an event and we've added more people onto our team by the time we've ended. So when we started and then when we ended, we have so many more people that have joined us. And that's amazing too, because they're there trying to do it, give it their first go. And then you meet up at an obstacle and you start talking and you're like, hey, just come along with us. And then before you know it, you got even a bigger team when you cross that finish line and it's their first time of doing it. And they're like, that was fun. We'll come back. And so that's really cool too. People are out there, doing OCR for their experience, for, their own personal goals that they're trying to do. And to see that is amazing too. To witness that, to be a part of that also is just why I love the sport too. But I think the other part is it constantly challenges Diana and I to think creatively of how we're going to tackle, and I like to say tackle that obstacle. It may not be graceful, but you know what? That's what it's all about. Just going right after it and saying, I got it. And it may be not very, like I said, not very pretty, not very gracefully, but you know, it's like a cannonball or a belly flop into the pool. Hey, it's done. You got her done. That's what it's all about. Yeah.
It is, and I agree with that. Like I said, that was my biggest problem in 20 and 21 was I can remember the last year before like everything shut down. I did Vegas. You mentioned that earlier. I did Vegas with a couple friends. And we had a goal. We were going to finish in this amount of time. This is what we were going to do. We hit a part where we came across a lady that was crying and just beaten down and done. And we all three looked at each other without even thinking and said, okay, cool. You're with us now. And just took her along with us. And all three of us are like, our time's shot, but who cares?
That's right.
Not one of us said a word about it. We're just like, cool. This lady needs help. We're taking her with us. And I think we're still friends and talk on Facebook all the time. It's like, so it's like you end up meeting people. And like before I moved down here, I did Dallas Ultra because, well, why not? But I did the Dallas Ultra and I met this lady, Jamie, while I was doing the Ultra. We're like, she's my training partner now in Conroe. So
that's awesome.
Now that I live down here. So
it's crazy.
Yeah, you meet people and you just, it's so amazing to watch the community stop and help people like, oh, hey, you know, I had a goal, but you need help. So that's more important than my goal.
Yes.
Because I need to, you know, help a fellow human. So
that's right.
You guys mentioned both that and I'll quick story time. It's giving me the chills. My first one, 6 miler, when I did it, it was it, I think it was Dallas. I can't even remember what it was. It was the half. And it was because it was the half or the 6 miler, they end with Everest, right? And I have a video of it to this day, and I tear up every time I watch this video. And this is the moment that hooked me, and I will say, in a way, changed my life for the better. That I was like, I'm in sports from here on out. Like, I was going up Everest, and I've been practicing on how to go up Everest, different like little half pipe like skateboarding shops here, right? And I was so close, but I was yet so far from getting my teammate's hand. There was 4 of us, right? And so this one guy, just totally random, who's up on the wall helping people, goes over to my teammate and tells my teammate to grab him by the legs and to hold him down far enough by his legs over Everest, because that's just how close I was yet so far. And random dude didn't know who I was, and he was willing to hang upside down on Everest to help me up. Are you kidding me? And that's exactly what happened, is that he hung up upside down for at least 3 tries.
Yeah.
I think maybe the 4th try, by the time I grabbed his hand, and they were able to pull me up. And the screams, just everybody screaming. And then, when they got me up there, my teammate, was yelling, and this guy, I think this random absolute stranger, don't know who he is to this day, but that dude changed my path just by that little thing, by that little task of helping. And it is to this day, like one of my favorite moments in Tough Mudder, because little did he know that little act would completely change course and get me hooked. And then to have complete trust in strangers. I mean, that's not the safest thing, right? But that's the other thing about, guides and people who help and stuff, that they're willing to put themselves aside and help athletes. And so like like you've mentioned, or like I mentioned Ryan Cray. Ryan's done a lot of races with us, and you want to talk about somebody who's done over 200 Tough Mudders. He started to just help out because he wanted to change it up a little bit, right? You get that many, you like you just said, you needed that change, right? And I did my first full with him, and we had a blast together.
Yeah, he's fun to race with, by the way. Anybody that wants to race with him, because he is fun to race with.
And he'll make you try it, even if you don't like. Even if you're nervous, you're like, no, I can't. He's like, you just gotta try it.
He's a great cheerleader supporter.
Yeah. So I did my first full with him, and then I did my first toughest with him. Because I was like, hey, if you ever decide to do it and you want to go slow, let me know. And literally that's what happened. But just these, people like you and guides who are willing to help out. And then again, even just the elite athletes who will turn around and be like, hey, let me give you a hand, of whatever that means. This community is pretty special. And it extends beyond just within us, right? Like you said, you and your friend, I forget the name.
Boggs. Well, Dawn,
Boggs.
but everyone calls it Boggs.
Yeah, and then and your training partner there, it's you form those friendships, right?
Well, see, what's funny though is actually being Boggs, we've known each other since preschool.
No way.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
We met in preschool, and I got him to start doing OCR with me. And then he's the one that hooked up with Joey and everything like that and got us going with More Heart Than Scars.
No way.
Yeah, because I started BeastNet, and then I was gonna quit. I was done. I was burnt out. I'd done it too much. And Dawn's like, how about I just take all the back end stuff and you talk?
Yeah.
And he took over everything else, and it just kind of, it kind of saved it. So he's always been like our entire lives. I've been the talker, and he's been the one that like, I'll come up with some insane idea, and then like a week later he'll be like, okay, I forgot how to make this work. And I'm like, make what work?
That's awesome.
I completely forgot about the idea, and he made it work, and he's just that kind of person. So he's awesome. Yeah, we met in preschool.
That's really cool.
Talk about again, a small world, right?
So how did you get him into OCR?
I was like didn't work, but I did street team for Spartan for a long time. So I would get like just massive free races, and I wouldn't use them all. So I'd bug all my friends like, who wants to go with me?
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh, it's too expensive. I'm like, here's a free race. What's your next excuse? Like, come on, come on. And finally I got him to do one with me. And then he just, like everybody else fell in love with it. And fell in love with everybody and, just kind of went with it. So yeah, that's how I got him into it. So
That's
just
very cool.
convinced him into doing a race with me. But it's really interesting too when you see people like that. Because I have another person I just did Ragnar, flew up to Seattle to do Ragnar in July. And one of the people that did it with us was a lady that I've known, but I completely really forgot that I convinced her to do her first Spartan like on a random meeting at like a Roadrunner sports thing for a street
Yeah.
team like in 2016.
Yeah.
And she's lost like 120 pounds and is like
Wow.
run like I think she did 12 marathons in a year. Like
That's
just
amazing.
went insane. She has all this the Disney ones, lost all this weight, and then she's like, I'm gonna go do a Ragnar. It's like I get to do the first Ragnar with the guy who talked me into all this. And I'm like,
Oh,
it's just kind of like, oh damn, and it's like
Full circle.
yeah. So I mean, it was amazing to see that. So I mean, it's just that's one of the other things I love in this is when you never know when, like you said, that one guy that reached down and grabbed your hand, he probably doesn't even know that he completely changed your life. And you think
that's
back and
right.
think, okay, who else have I helped
Mm-hmm.
that I have no idea, went on this crazy journey just because I happened to turn around and help them? Or, like they saw you and said, oh, I can do that. Because that was kind of one thing at World's Toughest. They saw us with Marla, and there was someone there that was like having issues in a wheelchair that was like a part of someone's, helping someone, part of their pit
Mm-hmm.
crew. And they're like, oh, well, I didn't know you could do that. It's like, yeah, you can do it. Hit us up. We'll find a way to get you out there.
That's
You
right.
know, and it just, they see, it's not even just helping them, but them seeing other people that they're like, because they've been told their entire lives, because they have this injury or this, disability. You can never do that. No, you
Right.
can't. You can do anything you want and we'll help you.
That's right.
Yep.
And we've all been there with whatever. Like I shattered my foot 7 years ago now and was told I would never run again.
Wow.
And,
Yeah.
I mean, the first marathon I did took 9.5 hours because I was 310 pounds, but whatever. But
Wait,
Got
but,
done.
a marathon. That's
yeah,
amazing.
I did a marathon at 310 pounds because I told myself I'd do it before I was 40. And I had 6 days till my 40th birthday and I hadn't done it yet. So I
Oh,
went out and did the
wow.
Seattle Marathon with Boggs. So, but
Hey, you got it done. That's all that
yeah,
matters, right?
so I got it done, and then I did another one with Boggs a couple years later, or like a year later, because he didn't finish the first one because he had back issues.
Mm-hmm.
He was only out there to make sure I did. So he's always been that like guide for me
Yeah.
because I'm insane.
Love
But
that.
I did another with him a couple years later, did it in 7, and then I ended up dropping all the weight, and did one in 4 hours and 39 minutes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but now
Way to go.
I've gained a little bit back because of I crashed on an Ironman and used that as an
Oh,
excuse not to work out. So, but
so
So what, Ironman 70 or 140?
it was a 70. But I,
So,
I dislocated my shoulder when I hit the ground and I popped it back into place and kept going.
Ugh.
So yeah,
Amazing what
yeah,
our body does when we're like, we gotta keep going, gotta
yeah.
keep
But
going.
what I didn't realize is I hit my knee at the same time and I didn't really notice. So when I
Oh,
went to get off the bike after the next 30 miles,
Yep.
yeah.
which I missed the cut time by 6 minutes, but I went to get off the bike and my knee was just I like looked down and it was like the size of a grape. Like I'm like,
Wow.
oh, I think I hit that too. Good thing I don't have to do the run. But
Wow.
I ended up doing I did Galveston in April. I finished the
Ah,
Galveston at
did
70.3 in
you?
April.
That's awesome.
So in fact, I
Oh,
want to do it again next year. I'm gonna start training. Well, this week is supposed to be the week I start training again.
So Dinah's the runner in our family. And I am her guide or I should say not really guide, she has a guide. I'm her cheerleader manager or her manager. So I try to go to every marathon she runs at.
Nice.
And I have a theme for each event. That way she can make sure she locates and finds us at certain miles. And that to me has been so much fun to do to watch her run and tackle these marathons, but being also her cheerleader. I literally have a squad that goes out with me, or I have teammates that family members and friends that meet up and have so many miles, and we have a theme. So every time she turns in that corner, she just never knows what we're gonna do.
Oh, so you
But
don't tell her what the theme is?
no, usually she doesn't know. But there are a few requests that we have kept at each event that we have. Usually there's bubbles involved and flags so she can locate us for particular reasons. I'm not going to say why particularly, but to make sure throughout that crowd she can locate me and get her boost of energy from us and keep going. But that's amazing that marathons. I think it's fantastic. I know Diana is very passionate about that too. That's her other big sport she's ventured in. We kind of switched. Like I said, I'm focused in OCR. She has focused in running, but that's great, Mike, that you do all those. Because how fun too.
Yeah, I started doing the triathlon when OCR, like I said, 2021, when OCR just didn't seem that fun to me. So I'm like, well, triathlon's pretty much a lonely sport anyway, so I'll go for that one. But my biggest thing when I first did it was I always thought I could swim. And then I tried doing a triathlon and realized that not like drowning and swimming are two different things.
Yeah. Right? That's the part that scares the bejeebies out of me because I want to do it. It's my goal to do after I get this one goal I have. So it'll take me till 2027 to 2028 to do this one goal. And then I was like, try triathlon. But the water scares the bejeebies out of me. I'm like, oh goodness.
It scared me a lot. And it just took a lot of just getting in and doing it. So like when I got ready for the last one, luckily the company I was working for, I had like an hour lunch and there was a LA Fitness that was 2 miles away.
Good.
So I would leave on lunch, go swim for half an hour, take a quick shower and go back to work and just have like, I would make wraps that I would eat for lunch while I was driving to and from the gym.
Wow.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do, right?
Yeah.
Like you're like, I'm going to make this happen. So yeah.
And then I have a trainer and I actually set up my garage. It's the trainer. And then I have I want a projector, home projector, like theater system. And I put it up in the garage so I can sit there and watch TV while I'm riding on the bike.
There you go. Well, that's awesome. Have you done the Houston Marathon then?
Not yet. I haven't done a lot here since I've been here just because I'll be next month will be a year since I've been here.
Wow. Okay.
Well, if you do the marathon, I'll only do the half because technically the marathon's not long enough for me. I need about 7. I'm working up to get between 6:30 and under 6. But right now it's not, I can't run that fast. So I'm eventually will work my way up to the Houston full. But if you decide to do the half this year, let me know because more than likely I will be out there.
Which one? When's the half?
The half is the same. I'll do it at the same time as the full marathon, so it'll be in January. So if you have any interest,
possibly I might do that. I'd even do it with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be so cool.
I would do it with you. That was one thing that always killed me when I first started training like really hard and got like to the point where I was like in better shape and I was running like 9-10 minute miles, and then all my friends I was like, hey, let's go for running together. They're like, I can't keep up with you. I'm like, I didn't ask you to keep up with me. I said, do you want to go with a run together? I'm like, I will. I want to go with you. I mean,
That's right.
And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck on once you get those people that are, get faster and all of a sudden they're like, oh, I can't keep up with you. It's like, no, I'm here to go with you.
Right.
That's right.
You'll match their speed.
Yep. I'll do the hot chocolate with my wife every year. And I mean, she doesn't run at all. So it's all walking and she's all like, I'm going to slow you down. I'm like, no, I'm just going to stay with you and we're going to have fun and we're going to walk this, and do her pace. So I would love to do the Houston Half Marathon with you. So,
and Mike, awesome. That's all what you just said there. I'm gonna hone in on it because that's how our guides are too with us when we do OCR events. And I will also tell you that's how Diana's guides are for her marathon. We want to do it with you. That's the key word there. Yeah, we want to do it with you. We have fun with you. We enjoy it. We want to hang out with you. Yes, that's during a race, but we want to do it with you. And you're exactly right. Because I always say the same thing. I'm going to slow you down. My pace. I take 2 to 3 steps that equal one of yours. I'm going to totally slow you down. And they're like, no, what's important to us is doing it with you. We have fun doing it with you. And I have to hit that hard, Mike, because you're exactly right. It's about doing it with you. And that's what Diana and I have done now too, as we try to get other folks involved. It's about us doing it with you. We're enjoying this experience with you. It's fun to be part of something that warms somebody's hearts, that then shows them that I can do this. I've got this. I'm going to tackle this. And again, it goes back to it's going to be creative, but I've got it. And so that's what's really, really cool about this.
Yeah, it is. And that's one of the things, like, it's, I've done so many of the, like, the OCRs and stuff with people that were a little bit slower than me or whatever. It's like, you know, the one I mentioned where I had 2 friends that got hurt and it took us like 12 hours to do them on anyways.
Yeah.
Multiple times my friends are like, you're fine. You're not hurt. You could just go. And I'm like, no, we said we were doing this together.
That's right.
And we're doing this together. And a lot of times I've met those people that are like, hey, let's go to this race together. And that means, hey, we're going to start together and I'll see you sometime.
That's right.
Yeah.
And when I tell people I want to do this race with you, that's not what I mean. I mean, we're
You're
going
going to be there. Yeah.
We're going to stay together. We're going to have fun. We're going to talk. We're going to motivate each other. It's like, you know, I mentioned, you know, Boggs went with me on that first marathon. He hadn't trained at all. He just decided to do it because he knew I was going to do it. And he's like, you might need some help,
Oh,
you know, mentally. Team. And I had another friend that came with us in mile 13. She wasn't feeling good. She's like, I just can't. You know, she'd been sick all week. And I'm like, that's fine. I get it. Thank you for getting me this far. And Dawn, it was like mile 22, started having back spasms. And he's like, I got you this far, but I'm done. And, you know, I've told him before, I'm like, I can't thank him enough, because if he hadn't got me to that mile 22, I wouldn't have been able to do those last 4.
Yeah.
So, you know, and that was amazing. But it gave me that chance. I finished my marathon. I got my goal. And then when he said, hey, I want to do this marathon, I'm like, cool, let's go. You know,
I'm in.
Yeah. So, you know, and that's one of those things is it's when you say, hey, we're going to do it together, that's what it is.
Yep. That's what it's about.
Well, and I think that's the other thing though too with OCR too. At least I think it has, and it sounds like it has with you, Mike, a little bit. OCR is such a great variety of sport in a way, you know, because you have all kinds of different obstacles that you're trying. So there's a lot of people that also, you know, do rock climbing or, you know, any like skiing,
triathlons.
Right, triathlons, marathons, and so it's a great group too. You have all these athletes that do all these different sports, and OCR almost brings this random group of athletes that do so many different things and brings us into one big whole, or one big group. So then, if you are, you know, experts, quote unquote, in your different fields, and then you're helping or you're assisting adaptive athletes, you have those different things that you're an expert in that can help guide you or help support you as being a guide, or even as an athlete. Like, I only started running because I was doing worlds and I was like, I gotta work on my running. Right, I need to get better at this running thing because I hated running. I also have generalized anxiety disorder. So during COVID, my anxiety got really bad. And so the best thing that actually ended up helping me was running, because I could be outside, not have to worry about anything, right? And then it was just a great way for me, one, to practice my running because I needed to with worlds, and to help, you know, that outlet. And so that's, you know, that's the other great thing about this sport is it allows you to hone in into different sports like you too. And then bring all these different athletes together. And that's the other thing is many of the guides and athletes are also very much involved within the community, right?
OCR,
you don't just them, right? You don't just pick them out of nowhere.
No, you can't.
Right. Because you, like you mentioned, you have that safety aspect too. So it's like Tavi, my guide for my marathons, she runs under a 3-hour marathon. I mean, and so it's like you pick some of the best, and that's the great thing too about this sport and other sports is you bring all different types of athletes at different competitive levels, and you come together for this one cause, as you were talking about, you know, getting people to that finish line or helping people do things that they never thought they could do. You know, and so that's, I think, some of the greatest part. When I ran Chicago Marathon, they started us late, and you could, you know, Chicago's timed. You have to be done at 3:00. And so they started the adaptive wave 16 minutes late, and I had timed it so I'd get done at 2:45. Well, now we're 16 minutes late. So we're probably like a half a mile from the finish line. my side, my asthma, and I forgot my inhaler, just starts cramping on me, and I can't breathe. And I'm like, I'm almost there. And I turned to my guide. I was like, I'm grabbing your hand. She goes, okay. She goes, are you gonna collapse? I was like, yes. And so she's telling me, and you see in the video when we're about to cross the finish line, don't collapse here because then you're not a finisher. Collapse here.
Yeah.
Because I had to pick up my speed so much to be able to finish on time. And so, just something as simple as me grabbing her hand. And because I knew after that finish line, I was just going to go down. But it's that support system you have in place, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, and I think that's what I'm excited about this race, because you're going to have athletes at all different levels competing, right? Whether it's the 3K or the 15K. And it's going to look different for each athlete, right? And I think that's going to be cool. And I don't know, Alex, have you set a goal of how many athletes you want?
I want people to come participate, compete, because it is competitive. And I want to have I want to learn from this so we can continue to evolve and grow the categories. And so there's more categories to compete in for para athletes. I want them to have fun though, right? I want them to break barriers for themselves, whether that's doing a competitive race, whether that's improving their PR. I want them to just have fun and do what's best for them, and then also kick butt. I'm gonna say it that way, to kick butt, to show off their achievements, because it's an amazing event, putting on by a great organization, USAOCR. And again, I'm gonna hit it again, October 12th and 13th, in Georgia. Come out all. We have, again, elite, age, and para athletes. Check out the website, USAOCR.org, and PhoenixRaceOCR.com. There's a bunch of information about the race. Registered there. Check it out, folks. Just it's one of a kind. So totally check it out. I know I'll be there. Excited to meet everybody. Excited to see everybody. And just appreciate the opportunity to talk about it, but also appreciate the opportunity to talk about how much this is important to Diana and I, being a para athlete, but also trying to grow the participation and competitiveness. I'm going to say both: participation and competitiveness of athletes.
No. Well, and I love how you mentioned that, learning, because that's one thing a lot of people have to remember. This is the very first one. So this is going to be the one, like you said, there's going to be mistakes made. There's going to be stuff like that. But you're going into it with the thought process already of, hey, there's going to be mistakes. And knowing that the next one, is going to have adaptions and stuff like that to make it better. But that's one thing why we need the, participation and the competitiveness, because we need people there so we can see what works, what doesn't work, so that we can, make it better for next time and for everybody else. So everyone go out there, and there'll be links to all of this. Dawn put links in. There'll be links to all of this in the notes of the podcast. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. And Mike, I hope you and Dee can do Houston. That's exciting.
I'm gonna have to put on my calendar. So
yeah, and then hopefully we'll see you at an OCR event too. I don't know if I'll make down Houston. Sometimes I can cheer Diana on, but spiritually I'll be there. But hopefully we'll see you at another OCR event too.
Well, I was trying to think. The only ones I've got left for OCR this year is Dallas, and I think I'm going to Worlds.
So. You're going to Worlds? Yeah. I haven't made a decision on that. I will not be competing if I go to Worlds. Most likely pitting. But it is something that I'm trying to do. But number one is to USAOCR on this para 3K. So that's
we got to get that one
excited.
first.
Yeah.
That's gonna be first anyway. So
that's right.
Got to get that one in there.
And to be here before we know it too. So folks, sign up, register. It's exciting.
Sign up, register, get out there. So
that's right.
So yeah, it'll be it sounds like it's going to be a great time. So
It will be.
I can't wait. Like I said, I'm going to have to figure out a way to get up to Georgia. So
Yes, please.
I'll just have to tell work I'm off that Saturday. So
There you go. That works.
We can carpool if we need to. We can figure something out.
we can figure something out.
There you go. Road
I've been working 6 days a week. So
Oh, you need some
I'm
time
taking
off.
Saturday. I do need some time off.
What
I
a
don't
great
do anything though. I'm just the safety guy. I just tell everyone not to be dumb. So
Hey, that's important.
put on your safety gear and stop being stupid. That's pretty much what I say all day long.
And
Not
it's
in those
important.
words, but it is. It's safety is one of those things. That's one thing that's too honestly about like doing all this. It's like I get to see some of that too, where I can look at things from a different point of view because I have seen, the safety things and all that stuff, and I have all the first aid training and all that just because I have to teach it. But yeah, so it's a different. I see things a little different than other people sometimes because of the field I'm in. But
You need that.
you do. You do, and that's one of the things too. Is that's one thing I love about More Heart Than Scars is all the different perspectives.
That's right. That's
Because
important
everybody's a
too.
little bit different. We've got a couple nurses in a team, people who've battled addiction, so they've seen that side of it. So, which is another, thing that, people don't think about. Like you said, the invisible, the non-visible scars and traumas that people have that, someone might look healthy as can be, but
That's right.
you don't know what they've gone through, mentally and everything else. So a lot of times people with that ones that you can see, they've gone through a lot because of that. So
Right.
yeah. So this will be a fun thing. So is there anything else you guys wanted to say to the listeners before we?
No, just we appreciate the time, Mike. It's been fun. Thank you.
It's been a blast. And if you guys are always welcome to come back. So
Thank you.
reach out to me or Dawn, and we'll bring you back anytime.
Awesome.
All
We
right.
look forward to seeing you.
Yeah. Hopefully I can get out there.
Yes.
Yeah. And if
All right.
not, we'll have fun in January
We
in
will.
Houston. So
It'll be January, so it won't be as hot. So I have noticed in Houston, it's funny. It's like complete opposite of Seattle, where Seattle has all their events through like June through August and September. And in Houston, it's the complete opposite. They don't do anything between like June and August because it's too hot.
It's too hot.
I did a 10K yesterday, and I'm like, that was stupid.
Oh, that must have been brutal.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. We have Houston though, the marathons, you never know. One year I did it was 40, another year I did it was like 75. Yeah. But I mean, still compared to yesterday, that's beautiful, right? So,
well, that's what happened at Galveston and Ironman. There was all the news all the way up to the day of said it was supposed to be cloudy and possible rain. So I was all set for that, and it was 85 and sunny the entire time.
Just kidding.
Yeah, it's like just kidding. It's like I didn't bring enough water for this. This is interesting. Yeah,
it's important. So thank you, Mike. Appreciate you
guys.
Thanks so much.
We'll talk soon.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the BeastNet podcast. If you haven't done it yet, find us on Facebook, like and share the podcast. Give us a review on iTunes or Spotify. All these things will help to expand the show in the future. Don't forget to subscribe and let us know what you think and what you'd like to hear.